All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This is going to be a really fun episode this week because I have a very special guest, one of our one-on-one clients who has seen a ton of success over the past 5 months. And I'm really excited for her to share her story. Her name is Caela Miller. Caela, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good. And also, Caela, I remember the first time we had got connected, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember this or not, but the first time I said your name, I said Kyla. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You didn't say anything though, did you? I don't think you did.
No, I'm used to people mispronouncing it. It's fine.
Because it's spelled typical Kayla, usually like
Right.
Kayla, or maybe even like
Yeah.
Kaila, but yours is
Right. Never with a C.
Caeler. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I remember it was actually like Rebecca had told me like how your name is pronounced, and it was like
Yeah.
right after I sent you a message where I said your name. I was like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
feel like an idiot because I said your name wrong,
Oh,
and
I'm
I'm
sorry.
like
I'm
that's
used to it.
terrible. like
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
fine.
it was it, I don't know if it was like, did you sign up for like one of the group programs or something we did back, or no, maybe not.
I don't think a group
Maybe it was a
program. No.
challenge.
Yeah. Probably a challenge.
Maybe, I don't know, but it was like
Yeah.
after you signed up for that, and I felt like an idiot because I'm like, oh my gosh, like she signed up for this
It's fine.
challenge. Now I'm saying her name wrong. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
That's right.
But I'm glad we got past that. It's funny that you remember though.
Yeah.
Uh, cool. So I wanted to have Kayla on, not Kyla, Kayla, to talk about just her experience, over the past 5 months, because we'll talk about what she's achieved, but like briefly, she's down over 20 pounds now, and has seen a ton of results, and has seen a lot of success despite dealing with vacations, traveling, trips, and then also, some other things going on. And, we can talk about that if you want. If not, totally
I don't
fine.
mind.
But
I don't mind.
so I think her story would be like really inspiring for a lot of people to hear, just because of, everything she's gone through and the challenges and things. So kind of just to start, where did your like journey with this whole like fitness or weight loss like really start, like even before you even met me or before you heard of our program? Like take us back to like the very beginning.
Um, I mean, it's been years. So I've dabbled in all kinds of different weight loss, you know, all of it. And then a couple years ago, I started going to CrossFit at Built by Unity. That's where I met Rebecca. She actually helped me with my macros some back then. And that was at the time, that was the best I had ever felt doing, the CrossFit workouts and doing my macros and tracking all of that. And then I broke my foot at a volleyball tournament that Built by Unity had going on. And then I just went off from there and kind of like plummeted and, gained like my 35 pounds in just over a year.
Yeah.
And then Rebecca, I just kept seeing her stuff from you, and then that's where I am at now.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were kind of struggling with this for like years. Like how many years? Like, because I know some people, I've had as clients or other people I've interviewed, they've struggled with
Right.
like their weight and food and exercise since they were maybe even like 15 or 16, or maybe it started later in life. Like when was that like for you?
8 years ago. So my son would have been like around 2.
Okay. So it was it like,
My first kid. Yeah.
so it was a couple years after your first kid was born when you like really started to struggle with it.
Yeah.
So what kind of things did you try over that 8-year span then, since this is something that you've struggled with for so long?
Keto. I tried Optavia. That was not good for me.
Yeah.
I've tried cleanses. I've done Whole30, which Whole30 works great. It's just not very, lifestyle sustainable is what I'm
Yeah, there's a
looking
lot of
for.
restrictions.
Yes. Yes. So Whole30 is a great like jump start for me to get on something and then kind of go from there. And then I just, go back to normal. But really like, I feel like any diet I've probably tried it, low
Yeah.
carb, blah, blah, blah. Don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah. So the all of
Yeah.
these diets and everything that you tried over this 8-year span, what kind of results, if any, did you get from those? How did you if you did lose weight, was it
Yeah.
like did it stay off or was it temporary and then you gain it back? How did your energy feel doing these types of things?
Not good. I would say probably the time I lost the most weight at first was doing Whole30, and I did 2 rounds back to back, and then a half a round. So 2.5 rounds. I lost, like 17 pounds of weight that I didn't think I had, really to lose at the time. Now I'm like, yeah, I could lose that. But then I was like, oh, like that was a lot of weight for where I was. So Whole30, I felt wonderful. I probably, should stick to more of a whole food diet anyways, but
Mhm.
not always the easiest. And then obviously the weight came back, as time went on and I was doing regular things again. But when I was doing my macros before I Thrive, that was definitely the best I felt. Was macros in general has been the best for me at any point that I've tried it.
Right. So these diets, like compared to, having macros or calorie and protein goal and everything, these diets, what made them what do you feel at least made them not successful for you?
Well, not sustainable, one, or being starving and then binge eating is one
Right.
too. And just being too restrictive and saying like I can only have this, and I'm an all or nothing person, as you know. So
Yeah.
like saying I can't have this, and this, and then like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I need it all. And then I just quit and get off of it, and there goes that.
Right. So just those like strict food rules of like saying, okay, I'm going on this diet. I'm going to cut out all carbs. I'm going to cut out all these food choices. And like you can get yourself into that mindset for a short period of time because that's kind of like you said, how you
Yes.
are. You're like an all or nothing person. But
Yes.
eventually that runs out and eventually you end up missing out on like dinners, with family, dinners
Oh
with
yeah.
your spouse, vacations you feel guilty on, and all this kind of stuff. And all of it builds up. And then you're like, I can't do this diet anymore. And
No.
then if you're not on that strict diet, you don't know, in the
Right.
past
Where
at
to go.
least, you don't know what to do then.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like all or nothing. Like I either do it or I'm off.
Yeah. So you mentioned like what the one you lost. It was Whole30. You said you lost like 17 pounds, and then you ended up kind of gaining that back over time. Those
Yeah.
other diets you tried, like, was it kind of the same scenario where you lose weight and then gain it back over a period of time?
Gain it right back. Yeah. Like Whole30 was probably the only one that I kind of like gained it back over time. Whereas the other ones, I'm like off of it and back up. Here I go. What was the point of that?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think I think that's probably because of a couple of reasons. Like obviously one, you mentioned a lot of them like are super low calories, especially Optavia. Like
Yeah.
I think it's something crazy. It's like less than 1,000 calories a day if you
Oh
follow it
yeah.
strictly.
Yeah.
Um
That was awful.
so you're like restricting yourself of calories so much, and then all of a sudden like you
Yeah.
get off the diet and it's like
Yeah.
free for all. And also like
Yeah.
restricting your calories so much, your hunger just builds up, all
Yeah.
those cravings build up, and then you end up kind of binging
Yeah.
after and then gaining that weight back quickly. And then another big reason probably why the weight came back so quickly is because like the quicker you lose it, especially with those like super restrictive methods, a lot of times, a lot of the weight you're actually losing is just water weight. So then when you go back to
Yeah.
eating normal, you gain all that water weight back. Like
Right.
keto, a lot of times people will lose like 5 pounds or more in the first week. And it's like
Right.
99% of that weight is actually just water that you're losing
Yeah.
because, carbs help to store
Right.
water and everything. But people don't really
Right.
realize that. They just see the number on the scale and
The
think like,
scale.
oh, like
Yeah.
that's success just because it goes down when it's not
Right.
always the case.
Right.
So going back to that timeline, like 8 years ago was when you first started to kind of struggle with this and you tried all these diets and everything. And then it was like 2 years ago where you started getting into kind of macro counting and everything. And
Yeah.
it seemed like you felt better then.
Right.
Um, so then you hurt your foot, right?
Mm.
And then you
First
said you get
time.
Yeah, the first time. Um,
Yeah.
and then and she had an incident like just recently. Maybe we'll talk about it at some point in this podcast. But the first time she hurt her foot. And then you ended up gaining, 30 pounds
Yeah.
back, right?
Yeah.
So kind of take me like where you were then, right? You had just come off the foot injury, you
Yeah.
had gained 30 pounds back. Like where were you and what was that timeline? Like how how many months or years ago was that when that point, occurred?
2023. So 2021, I believe, is when I broke my foot. So I had probably started my macros earlier in that year of 2021, and doing CrossFit, and I freaking loved it. It was the best. Like I loved the group of people there, and I just like felt like, part of something, and I was doing it and it was good. And then I broke my foot at the end of June. Didn't know I broke my foot. I mean, it hurt. I just braced it up. My brother's wedding was the next week. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'll just wear a brace. It'll be fine. It'll heal. And then it didn't. So sometime in July, I had to be in a boot for, 4 to 6 weeks, and then still wasn't better. It just didn't heal right. So every time I would go back to like say CrossFit, because I loved it, I would automatically hurt it. It never healed right. So that was end of 2021, and then 2022, I would say I did a shred with a girl on Instagram that I had found that does macros. It was January into February. Lost like, I don't know, 8 pounds or something. Felt great. Like my body composition changed, everything changed. And I felt good. And then March of last year was my birthday. So we had in February, we had went to Florida. March for my birthday, we went to Florida. We had an anniversary in June. So it was just like back to back to back, like stuff all
Mhm.
year. And so it just was like on the, vacation. And then like through the week, it was vacation, because it just like all just kept going, and I just didn't care.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, by the end of last year, I was like, okay, wow, I feel like crap. And then that was probably the first time I contacted you, like in sometime in the late fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then then I started this in February.
Gotcha. So I want to actually I'll wait a little bit. I want to touch on a little bit like that experience with the macros and that shred that you said you did, but
Yeah.
we'll kind of cover that a little bit later because I think
Okay.
there's some like really key points that I wanted to bring up with that.
Yeah.
But so how did you like feel when we kind of got in contact, in the fall, like after gaining the 30 pounds and everything,
Yeah.
like where were you at, like confidence wise, how you felt maybe physically, like doing workouts or like just kind of give us a rundown of like
Yeah.
where you were there.
Yeah. I was kind of like, well, I've already gained this weight. I just kind of was like I'm never going to get back to this feeling better phase. I just kind of was like stagnant where I was. I would say I'd probably tried a little bit to do, to try to lose some weight. But yeah, I wasn't really exercising. I definitely have never walked as much as I walk now. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. So no, that was fine. So
I felt like crap.
yeah. So you felt like crap.
Yeah.
And you weren't really exercising. And it sounds like you had kind of mentally almost, maybe not fully, but almost given up on
Yeah.
like, because I mean, you've been struggling with this for 8 years. Like that's a long time. And
Yeah.
if you've constantly like tried things over and over and every single
Yeah.
time nothing seemed to work,
Right.
or at least long term, like all that builds
Mhm.
up and it's perfectly normal
Yeah.
to feel like hopeless, almost like, oh, I'm just gonna
Yeah. Oh
always
yeah.
be this
Like,
way.
how am I going to get back to where I felt good? Like, I felt like I was so far past that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was kind of like when we started talking in the fall of last year.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until like February of this year.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
probably around like 3 months or so, maybe four, like
Yeah.
between when we first talked before you actually officially like signed up for the program.
Right.
So what did those 3 to 4 months like look like? What kind of like happened over those 3 to 4 months, or maybe didn't happen that I guess, inched you obviously closer to like actually signing up for the program? Because I know we talked about you signing up
Yeah.
in the fall and it
Yeah.
didn't happen. So like what happened between
No.
those months?
I was like, I could do this myself. I got this. Like, I know the knowledge, I have the knowledge, I just have to do it. And I didn't. And then I tried, and it was kind of like a yo-yo, like a do this, not do this. It wasn't consistent. And then I was just like, all right, like I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah. So just the feeling of like you feeling like you should be able to do it on your own after,
Yeah.
all these years and everything. And
Right.
which is something that a lot of people fall into the trap of. And like
Yeah.
it's, they think, I think it's because like everybody always eats and like exercise, like while there's a lot of like information out there and a lot of it is, maybe bad or not so great information,
Right.
there is information out
Right.
there. So people are like, oh, I can use these resources to figure it out on my own. Whereas like
Yeah.
something more in depth, like I don't know, like going to the dentist or getting your car repaired or something, like
Right.
those things, we typically like go to someone else to help us with those
Right.
things.
Right.
But nutrition is easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I should be able to do this on your own.
Yes.
So over that time period, it sounds like you kind of bounce back and forth of like maybe seeing a little results, but then gaining it back or not seeing any results at
Yeah.
all. Or
Yeah. I mean, I probably, I lost like a little, few pounds, a few.
Mhm.
And then the weekend would come and it'd be like, bye.
So consistent during the week, maybe, and then the weekend came and
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
kind of blew it. And it sounds like maybe you didn't know how to manage the weekends while
Definitely not.
not undoing everything.
Definitely did not. Yeah.
So what was it that well, let me ask you this first. Were you skeptical signing up like when you did? Was it scary? Were you nervous? How did that feel like when you fully committed
Yeah.
on the phone call or whatever that we had or the text message? Like what kind of take me
I
through
was
like
nervous for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, I was very nervous. Well, first of all, like a 6-month commitment sounded like, whoa. Like, what if I don't like this? What if like 2 months in the road, I'm like, this really isn't for me. Like I just, paid for like a 6-month thing, but I was like, well, maybe that's what I need is a 6-month thing to like, keep me going. Cause I would just waste a lot of money on a lot of things. Like, oh, here, like I'm gonna pay this trainer online to like give me my macro count, where I could pay a different trainer and they'd give me totally different macro counts. I'm like, okay, who's right here? Like, I never really knew. Like, I just like try different things and like online different. I did like I forget what it was called, some kind of like a macro fit mom thing on Facebook, Stay Fit Mom or something, and that just didn't work for me. I liked the recipes and stuff like that, but it was, I mean, yours is very, I wouldn't say intense, but very what is the word? Um like your
Uh
spreadsheet stuff.
oh, detailed, I guess, or
Detailed. It's very, yes, very detailed. So like, but with the app, that helps a ton because I don't have to input every little thing into
yeah.
the spreadsheet. Whereas on that one, it was every single day I was spending at least 10 minutes filling out this spreadsheet of stuff I wasn't getting back from them. So it just kind of felt like a waste of time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like um and this was kind of the point I was going to make, but you were so used to doing all of these like short things or these
Yeah.
like buying these like short products or these
Yeah.
one-time things, which is easy to fall into the trap because like you've been doing this for a while, so you are
Right.
knowledgeable, like you have some knowledge regarding nutrition and everything. So you're like, oh, I just need like a this little bit or this little bit.
Jump
And
start.
like the last program that you did or the last coach, like you said, it was January to February, right? So it was what, like a month long, maybe
Yeah.
a
It's only a
little
month.
over a month.
Yeah. It's only,
And it's easy to fall into those things because one, like they're obviously probably going to be less expensive because it's a
yeah.
short thing, and
Yeah.
but it's like
And there's no
if
coaching in that month. It's
right.
literally a macro count. And then like she posts recipes and stuff, but like you do all your own tracking and everything
Mhm.
so that you can like, I guess, learn how to do it on your own. But if there's no accountability there, it's kind of like, I'm not going to track today.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's like the short duration stuff, because it's less expensive, it's easy to fall into,
Yeah.
but you obviously like get what you pay for a certain extent too. Like if you're paying for all these less expensive things, you're going to get less value out of it. You're probably going to get less help out of it versus if you
Right.
like fully invest in somebody who,
Yeah.
is going to be there by your side, all the
Right.
time, or whenever you
All the
need it.
questions.
Yeah, all the questions, which I love that you ask questions. It makes my job more fun because I like answering
Yeah.
questions.
Right.
Uh, but like a big part that I wanted to kind of bring up was like that last program you did, like while you felt good after
Yeah.
that, month or so, it
Right.
wasn't long enough to like, for one, you said there's no coaching,
Habit.
so it wouldn't
Yeah.
really have helped anyway. But even if it
Right.
was coaching for 4 weeks, like just 4 weeks, it wouldn't have been long enough to take you through, oh, like I have this birthday party, or oh, we have this holiday
Right.
weekend, or we have this vacation. Like that's the true value of working with a coach for 6 months or even a year
Yes.
or longer. Is like when I work with
Yeah.
clients for a year, like we end up going through experiencing, New Year's, we experience,
Right.
Valentine's Day, get-togethers, we experience
Mhm.
the 4th of July. What
Right.
other holidays are there? Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, we experience,
Giving.
yeah, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the
Yeah.
big holiday time. So like
Yeah.
being able to work with a coach for a full year in all those seasons and learning how to navigate food and your exercise
Right.
around the traveling and the holidays is like
Sure.
so valuable, while learning how to do it with someone by your side versus on your own. Um,
For sure.
so that was like a big point I wanted to bring up with your other like
Yeah.
short program. Even though you felt great, it wasn't long enough to learn those things. And maybe you wouldn't have learned it anyway because you didn't have an actual coach. But if it was
Right.
actual coaching for 4 weeks,
Yeah.
even then it still wouldn't have been long enough. Which is why like we have that minimum commitment. But
Yeah.
it obviously can be scary at first for sure, because
Can I
like,
pause it?
yeah, yeah, go.
I,
Um, so we're back. We had to take a brief pause, but trying to remember where my thought was. I think it was just like, what was it? Oh, just how it
not work.
is scary,
Yeah.
right? It's a 6 month
Yeah.
commitment and it's scary, but it's what you need ultimately to actually like be successful with it, to avoid that like yo-yoing back and forth of like being on and off, but then also to learn how to navigate those situations.
Right.
So what was like I don't know if there was any kind of moment or situation or thought that you had in your head of like where you were at, that was like the trigger to actually doing it. Because I think we had like a few conversations
Yeah.
where you were
Yeah.
like weighing it out and then ended up not doing it, weighing it out,
Right.
not doing it. So like, was there anything that like you experienced that like pushed you over the edge to be like, okay, I need to do this?
Yeah. Rebecca. So
Thanks,
when you
Rebecca.
did, yeah, yeah. Well, when you did her like video with her, like with her process and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, like I know her. Like, I not no offense, but I didn't know you that
Right.
well
Yeah.
back then. But like that was somebody that I could make, a connection with and like know and trust. Like, and she's like, no, like you will never regret it. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing it.
And do you regret it now?
No,
That's
not at
good.
all. Yeah, no,
uh,
not at all. 100%.
that's good. That's good on me and good on Rebecca that she didn't give you
Yeah,
bad information.
yeah,
um, uh,
yeah.
but yeah, Rebecca's story was obviously, inspiring, and it always helps when it's somebody that like.
Yes.
It's easy to see pictures online of like the coaches post of transformations of
Right,
like random people, and it's like, yeah, but like,
right,
you don't know their backstory. Maybe the pictures were altered and they're not even like real transformations or whatever.
right,
But like this is a
right.
real person, in real life.
Yeah,
So that obviously helps.
right.
So
Yeah. And like she had already like kind of been through like, my journey that far.
yeah.
Like,
Um,
she knew what kind of like what I needed, what I wanted. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, appreciate you, Rebecca, if you're listening. So kind of let's go through and kind of um just give a rundown of like where you're at now. Like we're like 5 months in, so you're coming
Yeah.
up on around like a month out from kind of your
Yeah.
official like first end date. So what
Yeah.
where are you at now compared to where you started as far as like maybe pounds you've lost, how you're feeling
Yeah.
better, maybe in your clothes and your skin, overall
Oh,
confidence? Like kind of give us a rundown of where you're at now.
feel way better. I feel way better. Like I can actually like for example, this shirt, like I haven't worn it in over a year because I just didn't like the way my arms looked in it, or like, it hugged my stomach too tight. So I was had gotten into that wearing, extra big clothes that kind of like made me look even bigger probably, to now like I just bought my first like fitted shirt, and I don't wear fitted things ever, ever. So like I just, feel a little bit more confident. I still don't love the way I look in a fitted shirt, but I'm at least confident enough now that I can wear it and not have to wear those like extra large shirts that, just make me look frumpy. So yeah, I definitely like my skin complexion then to now is a night and day difference. Um like my legs and my progress pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually looked like that. Like that's embarrassing that I looked like that. But then to now, I'm like, okay, I can never go back to that. Like having the comparison now that like I can get back towards where I want to go. Like I don't have to just say like this is the end. I'm never gonna be, fit again or whatever. I definitely feel a lot better. Yeah, a lot better.
Yeah, I love that, the whole, like, shirt thing and just being able to
Yeah,
wear, like, these types of shirts that you haven't worn in so long or maybe even
forever.
have, like, ever worn, like, the fitted shirt
Yeah,
and, like, while I think it's important too to, like, while you said while you don't feel 100% confident in the fitted shirt yet, you feel confident
right.
enough to buy
Yeah,
it and to still wear it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think that's just an important point to highlight that and it just shows you appreciating like your progress and
yeah,
improvement and confidence along the
yeah.
way versus just like the finish line because I know like there's still
Right.
more that you want to achieve, there's
For
still
sure.
more weight that you want to lose, but
Yeah.
you don't have to wait until you get to the end point to start feeling more confident, start living your life
Yeah.
better. You can do it along the
Yeah.
way, um along the journey. So I like that you brought that up and I thought it was an important point to
Yeah.
kind of highlight there. um
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Definitely,
go ahead.
definitely have more to go. But from then to now, I feel so much better that I feel like now I can wear, different things that I definitely wouldn't have worn, 6 months ago, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is incredible. And you're down now about like I think I saw yesterday like like a new low weigh-in for you. So you're like down almost I think it's like 21, 22 pounds since you started just like 5 months ago, which is um
Yeah.
pretty incredible, like I said, given the circumstances that you went through. And I don't know if you want to talk, you said in the beginning that you were fine with talking about that a little bit, but
Yeah. I
um
don't mind.
like, do you wanna share, like, some of the stuff you went through? And this was probably when we were I would say, was it 3, maybe 3 and a half, probably, like, 3 months in,
Me
maybe?
too. I think it was two. I think it was
Maybe 2 or
April.
3.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think it was
um,
April.
yeah, I'll let you go ahead and, talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. So, so we started in February, did really good, was starting to feel really good. And then I found out, well, we're pregnant and we weren't trying. So that was kind of like, that was a hard time. So, with finding out that I was pregnant, we had had 6 previous miscarriages at the time. So I kind of like halted all my progress because I was like, okay, I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to do anything. Like, I'm going to eat whatever I want because, like, I don't want to hurt anything. So that was probably, I would say, a 2 week halt. And then I ended up miscarrying anyways. But so that, that was like emotionally hard, physically hard, and just kind of like changed a lot of like my mentality for a couple weeks, for several weeks, I would say. Because then, like, obviously when you miscarry, you have It's not just like over in a
Hmm.
day. So like we worked through like the emotional part, the physical part of like getting back into feeling like when do I feel okay to work out again? Or like when is it okay to work out again? Obviously a lot of like ER visit, doctor visits, blood tests. I mean, all of that. So that, and then going from there, just kind of had to like get myself back in track. Because yeah, I just kind of was like, I'm done. Like, everything was just kind of like, this sucks. I'm done, like whatever. And then you got me back in there. And then we had to kind of navigate, vacations or weekend, like holidays, stuff like that. So yeah, there's been a lot that we have hurdled over
Yeah.
our 5 months.
Yeah,
And then another foot injury last week. So
yeah. For sure. A lot of obstacles, and obviously like very, incredibly big one. And
yeah,
um where do you feel like, you would be if, like, let's say, I don't know, if the program had like
right.
ended right when that happened, like where
Yeah.
do you think you would be now? Do you think you'd be in the same spot or in a different spot, or
No, I would not be here in the same spot. I mean, yeah, no, I probably would have reverted back to my old ways and probably just kind of would have gotten into like, I don't want to say it like a depressed slump, but just wouldn't have felt real good. And I probably would have just kind of like ate whatever I wanted and I probably would have stopped working out. Yeah.
yeah. And what do you feel like was then, regarding the program, or how maybe it was just you just knowing, hey, I have this much time left in this. I don't want to waste it. Like what about the program or about that do you feel like helped, I guess, reel you back in versus like, you not being able to do it on your own, if that
Yeah.
was the case.
Honestly, I think um with you saying like, hey, Caela, it's okay. Like, take this week or take 2 weeks, like take your time, like you weren't pushing me to be like, yeah, you're fine, suck it up, let's get back on it. Like you like allowed me to like feel what I was feeling and you didn't push me past it. I think that helped a ton because sometimes when people push you like, yeah, you're fine, keep going, then you're just like, no, screw you. I don't want to. But like
Yeah.
you gave me the choice and like you were positive about it to like, hey, if you need a week, if you need 2 weeks, like, we'll get back on it. This is not going to like, you know, alter your entire progress. Like you can still, take, let's say 2 weeks and then jump right back on this. And like, we're not going to be necessarily behind. Like we can go forward from here. So that helped a ton. I think just the
Yeah.
way you were positive about it and like let me heal in the time that I needed to heal and I didn't feel rushed.
Yeah. And I think like when that had happened, I was, obviously like very,
Yeah.
I don't know, like taken back, and just
Yeah.
I wanted you to just be like, hey, I know that like I'm here. I wanted you to know that I was here
Right. Yeah.
whenever you were ready to get back into things. If you, like I said, if
Yep.
you like were what you said, if you needed a week, 2 weeks, even if you
Yeah.
needed a month, like to mentally and physically recover before you got back to
Right.
things, that was totally fine. Like I wasn't gonna rush you because
Yeah.
while even like physically maybe you would have been good to get back into things after,
Right.
a couple of weeks, like mentally you might not have been there. And that's,
Right. Right.
not by any means not an easy thing to go through. And I think you really surprised me on how, and maybe you're just good at covering up your,
Yeah.
internal emotions a little bit, but you really
Yeah.
surprised me of how, I don't know, you kind of just, I don't know, not moved on quickly, but you were so like,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm ready. Like when you were ready to get
Right.
back into it, you're ready. And
Yeah.
I guess going back to that all or nothing a little bit, uh
Yeah.
the way you kind of are, but you, I don't know, you very impressed me, and it was like very motivated for me. Like she just went through this,
Yeah.
and she's getting back on track, and she's going back to the gym, doing things positive for her body, positive for her mental health and everything. And it made me think like, when I go through something, like I want to be
Right.
like Kayla and like, take my week or two that I need to process
Yeah.
things, but then not
Right.
let it sabotage,
Don't let it
everything
take
I've
you.
done,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I don't know. I think you and you didn't really miss a beat, like we kind of talked about.
Yeah.
A couple weeks went by, and you
Right.
weren't really tracking food, weren't exercising, giving your body a break, but you were still making like overall good food choices. I feel
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah, I was trying. Yeah.
and I think by everything that we had learned over the past like previous 2 months before that happened, kind of carried over, though you weren't
Yeah.
tracking specific numbers, it carried over and allowed you to maintain all that weight loss that you
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
So then when we got started again, you weren't backwards by any means. You were right where we
Right.
left
It was
off.
kind of just like a diet break almost.
Almost.
Like,
Maybe
kinda.
maybe a little more
Yeah.
more traumatic than a diet break.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the way you handled it was just incredible, and I'm very grateful that like the support that I gave you was the right support that you needed during that time, because I'll be honest, like I didn't necessarily know what to
Yeah.
do, but I
Right.
was just like, I'll just be
Yeah.
here for whatever she needs. So I'm glad that that
Yeah.
helped. Uh so kind of moving on to that second part you mentioned, then the like vacations and stuff, and we had a lot of pretty like decent amount of vacations and trips just maybe like a few weeks ago, within the past month. And
June was busy. June
yeah,
was.
so were you nervous going into like all these trips and vacations? Like how did you feel before you went into them?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was very nervous. Yeah, that's how I gained all my weight last year. That's when I gained all my weight last year, was trip after trip after trip. I know like the first trip I went on, like after we had started, I think that was in March. I took my first like trip. And I was so nervous because I was like, no, like I think I had just lost like 5 pounds, I think. And I was like, no, like I'm gonna gain this all back. This is gonna be horrible. Like, all this, a couple of weeks or whatever it was that we had worked so hard on. And then I ended up like you told me. So I was like, okay, this is my all or nothing personality. Do I take my food scale? Like, do I not enjoy dinner? Like, what do I do? And you're like, I mean, you can take your food scale, but like I wouldn't. And I'm like, oh, he's not telling me I have to do this. Okay. So like maybe I don't take my food scale. And you just said like to portion your plate, have your protein, your fats, your carbs, and just make it kind of like balanced. So that's kind of mostly, I would say like an 80-20 rule when I was down there. And I ended up coming back and I think I just maintained. And that's what you said, like the worst that can happen is, well, not the worst, but you just maintain during this weekend. And that's what we
Mhm.
did. And then we just kind of like, it didn't like really alter my progress at all. So going on to like the other vacations, like I learned through this how to like I don't have to sit there and track every bite that I take on vacation. Like I can mentally know now, like, hey, okay, I can eat this and this, and like, I know how to kind of manage it a lot better than I ever used to. So I can at least maintain on vacation and then fix it later.
Yeah, well, uh, yeah, it was funny. I remember you asking me about the food scale thing, and
Yeah,
that's funny that you remember. Yeah, I was like, I mean,
you
if you
can.
really want to take it, I mean, you can, but
Yeah,
like, I'm not doing that on
like
vacation.
don't want to.
And if you're somebody like listening and you've ever worked with a coach or you're working with one now and they're telling you to take your food scale on vacation, like it's kind of a red flag. I mean, unless you're doing like a bodybuilding contest or bikini contest prep and you're like, getting close to that contest date, that's kind of a different story. But if you're just trying to like lose weight and get healthier and you don't have any competitions or anything, like do not take a food scale on vacation. Uh so you you were super successful really on all the vacations, right? Like even if we just maintain over vacation, that's a win, because most people they gain, up to like 3 to 5 pounds on vacation pretty regularly. Now a
Right,
lot of that they gain is probably a lot of water weight and retention and stuff, but some of it is fat a lot of the times, if we go crazy
right.
on food
Yeah,
and alcohol. But every single vacation, that or trip you went on, you either
Mhm.
maintained or there was even, I think was there one that you even lost weight when you came back?
Lost. Yeah, 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 which has
Um,
never ever happened ever.
yeah. So what do you think? Like, I know you kind of talked a little bit about like
Yeah,
the portions of your plate, like,
right.
your protein, your carbs, and your fats, and being more mindful. Like, what do you think made the difference of you being so successful on these vacations versus previous vacations in the past before the program?
Um, so like I still tried to walk as much as I could. Like even like on the cruise that we just went on, like sometimes I didn't always wear my watch, but like we walked everywhere. So like I got a lot more steps than I'm like more conscious about like hey, like get your steps in or like walk up the stairs, don't take the elevator, so like I'm walking more and I'm more conscious of like walking. So I think that made a big difference. And like when I went to Florida, I took a walk every day. So like I think that helped a lot. And just knowing that like I can enjoy things. I don't have to like get all my dessert every night on vacation because like I can have it whenever I want. So like just knowing that like I'm not restricted to like on vacation, on vacation, usually I'm just like, yeah, like we're going out to eat. I'm gonna get like the yummiest thing that sounds good to me. Like now
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I can get my like eggs and I can have my hash browns or like if I knew that I wanted dessert that night, like I could kind of like alter my earlier day, like making sure I'm getting my protein in, and stuff like that. And like just allowing myself really to be able to like navigate it a little bit different than I ever did.
Yeah, so a big thing was activity that you mentioned, which is huge.
Yeah.
Like the more active you can be, even if it's just walking, like people severely underestimate how big of a difference
Yeah.
walking makes.
Oh, yeah.
But that can be a huge difference. And then you said something, and I just want to kind of clarify this. You mentioned like these foods, these desserts, restaurant foods. You feel like you can have them whenever. You mean like when
Right.
you're not on vacation, you can have them whenever, right? That's
Yeah.
is that okay? Yeah, that's what I thought you
I
meant.
mean,
But
yeah, like I know that like vacation is not like the only time that I can splurge. Like if I like, I mean, yesterday, so like yesterday was Thursday and like I had a bit of a rough day yesterday. So I used Thursday as my Saturday for my food increase. So like I just was
yeah.
generally hungry yesterday. I think it was just because it was just a very busy, stressful day. And I was like I need food today. So like I let myself have food knowing that like Saturday, I'm not going to use my, larger scale of calories. I'm going to lower that back down on Saturday to a lot for like Thursday being up my bigger day. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. And just for context too, for people listening, like
Yeah.
some clients, they're on the same calorie goal every single day. Kayla right now, she has 5 days that are her quote unquote like lower calorie days. They're not like anything crazy, like 1,000 calories, but they're lower than what her other 2 days are. She has 2 days that are purposely a little bit higher, and then 5 days that are a little bit lower, just so she can have more flexibility on those 2 days. But I think that's super, super important point that you made, and I feel the same exact way when I go on vacation now. And so many clients have, talked about the same thing where like desserts, going out to dinner while, if you want to lose fat, having those things all the time, they're going to be higher in calories. So it's going to be more difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't ever have them. You can fit them in, especially if you're tracking your food and fitting them within your calorie budget for the day. You can have them, pretty, semi frequently and still lose the weight you want. So when you know that and you like spend 5 months losing 20 plus pounds while doing it, and know that it works that way, you sprinkle those things in, kind of all the time, throughout the week or through
Right.
normal weeks. Where then when you go on vacation, like you said, it's not like, oh, I'm on vacation. I get to have all these foods that have been off
Yeah.
limits for the past, few months. Like those foods are always quote unquote on limits if they're in your budget. So you don't feel, I don't know, it's not like you don't, I don't know how to explain it. Um, you don't have this like sense of urgency, like, oh, like I have to enjoy ice cream because it's the last day of vacation, when like next week you can just
Yeah.
go get ice cream on a random Tuesday and it's fine.
So on our cruise, they have like unlimited ice cream. So they have the ice cream machine out by the pool that like you literally, free for all. Whenever you could have 17 cones a day, it doesn't matter. So the first day I was like, I remember like when I was a kid, like in middle school, we went on a cruise and I just remember getting ice cream all the time and like how good I thought it was. So I'm like, oh, I'm getting an ice cream cone on the first day. So I went and got the ice cream cone and I was like, I don't really want it. So I threw it away. Like I ate a little bit of it and I was like, okay, like I don't need it. I don't really want it. Like why waste my calories? Whereas before I'd just usually just eat it because I have it. But now I'm just kind of like, if I don't have to eat my whole plate. If I'm full, I'm full. Like I'm
Mhm.
learning more of like how to balance for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I love that. Just I think like this is kind of like a little analogy I just thought of regarding what we were just talking about with like restricting yourself with something for so long, and then like when you finally give
Yeah.
yourself permission to have it, and that's like a short timeline, you feel like you have to have it. It's like think about like if you're I don't know if there are two people and one person
Yeah.
is I don't know like really struggling financially and two people are driving on the road. One person's struggling financially and then another person is like a millionaire, right? And they're driving and
Right.
then this truck crashes that has it's like a bank truck and has a bunch of dollar bills or $100 bills on it, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
$100 bills are all over the road. Like the person who feels like money is scarce to them or like they don't get to have it often is going to get out of their car and grab hundreds of dollars. But the billionaire, because money is they can have it whenever they want, they don't feel that urge to grab it. And it's kind of like with the food choices and the food scenario we mentioned, like when
Yeah.
you when you learn, I mean it's slightly different, but when you learn that like
Right.
these foods you can have whenever you want
Yeah.
in moderation, obviously,
Right.
versus only on vacation and never when you're not on vacation,
Right.
you just don't have that urge to just like
Yeah.
have it, especially even when you're full. Like you're able
Yeah.
to say no to it when you're full versus like, oh, I'm never going to be able to taste this again until my next vacation. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
eat it even if I'm already stuffed. So
Yeah.
um I think that's probably, it sounds like that's been huge for you too with being successful on
Definitely.
vacation, is just like not only what you've done on vacation, but the way
Right.
you've implemented these nutrition strategies not on vacation has helped your
Right.
vacations in that way.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so anything that surprised you about the program at all?
Hmm. Surprised me. I don't how fast it's went, I guess.
Which is
Like, wow,
like,
I've did for 5 months. Like, look at all the obstacles that we've had, and I've been doing this for 5 months. I can't believe it. I would say
mhm,
that.
yeah. Um, so hopefully, they say time flies when you're having fun. So hopefully it's
Yeah.
been a lot of fun and that's why it's
Yeah.
gone
Yeah.
fast,
I love
despite
it.
the obstacles, obviously.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
Uh, so you kind of mentioned a little bit about this, but like you being able to wear different types of shirts and everything that you weren't wearing before. And that's
Yeah.
like one way that this whole thing has kind of affected some kind of area of your life. How has the program affected any other areas of your life? Like things you feel more comfortable doing now, maybe like on your own or with your kids or with your family or your spouse, or
Yeah.
just how you show up on a day-to-day basis. Like
Yeah.
has that affected any areas or
I mean, I would say, yeah. Probably all areas. Like, you just feel more accomplished, I guess, like working out and just like doing something good for yourself. Like you just feel more accomplished in your day to day. Like kind of like, okay, like let's get up and like get my steps in. Like, like one of the mornings recently here, I was like, "Ugh, okay, it's 7:45. It was a late night. And I was like, I don't really want to get up, but if I don't get up now, like my steps are not going to start moving. So like I kind of like have more of that like get up and move kind of, I guess, more go get it attitude.
yeah, yeah, and I'm sure, at least I'm assuming that by doing that, it helps you feel good and makes the
Yeah.
rest of your day feel
I like
better.
hitting
Like,
goals. I like hitting goals. So like sometimes it depends on the situation. Like if I hit my 10,000 step goal, I'm like, yes, I did something today. Like I felt good.
yeah, and I think that like doing that you like gain confidence from like saying you're going to do something and then following
Yeah.
through and
Like
doing
I
it.
can do this.
And yeah, and I think that confidence then bleeds into really everything else that you
Yeah.
do, and the way
Yeah.
you kind of show up. And um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that's awesome. And what would you say to kind of somebody else who's been like on the fence, maybe somebody who has said maybe not quite yet a couple of times to
Yeah.
signing up for the program?
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to somebody who's just kind of skeptical to take that leap, since obviously, it can be a very scary leap?
Yeah, I would say that I've too been in that situation of like, financially, can I do this? Like, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Like, do I want to spend my money here or there or there? I would say just do it. Like, do, a financial option or, figure it out, some way to where like you could do this for yourself because even even now, like I would do it again. Like I don't regret anything. I love it. Like it helped so many things. And like I've learned so much. Like just the knowledge alone, like the money's worth it. Like you can always make more money. But like being able to just like take that step of like, okay, I'm gonna do this for myself. Like, and like you've said before, like, your kids get the best version of you when you're, kind of like when you're bettering yourself, I guess. So like knowing that and like thinking, okay, like it's, 45 minutes a day, depending on how your workout schedule is. Like, 45 minutes here or half hour there, like, or just a walk here or walk there. If you can't get your workout in, it's okay. Like you're not pressing, like you're not a drill sergeant. Like you allow people to like have a life and you figure out how to incorporate it with their lifestyle. And I think that's like the most important thing because it's realistic that way.
Yeah. And there are a lot of really good things you said in there. I think one is just like you said, like money, you'll make more of it. But I think a big thing that you get from a program like this is like you save time. I mean, you talked about how much knowledge you've gained, and think about maybe how
And
long it
then
would have
you keep
taken.
that,
Yeah. Yeah. You keep that forever,
that's something
right?
you can take away
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. And how long would it have taken you to maybe learn, that knowledge on your own, if you
I don't
wouldn't have
think I
joined the
could have.
program? And right, like you don't even feel like you
I
could have.
don't think I could have.
And even if you could have, like how long it would have taken you. So like by doing that, it like shortened that time window, which is time is something we can't get back, right? We can get money back, but we can't get time back.
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, you can take that knowledge forever, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
only learning how to lose weight and maintain your weight and be healthy
Right.
over 6 months, like you're learning how to do it for the next six
Through life.
months too, and
Yeah.
forever, right? And
Mhm.
that's why, like I said, it's really valuable to like working with clients long term for 6 months,
Mhm.
even a year, because we go through all those cycles and it's like, okay, next year, 2024, like I know exactly how to handle all these
Right.
situations.
Yeah.
Now you obviously, if you're on your own, you have to be able to hold yourself accountable, which can be
Yeah.
really challenging, but
For
um,
sure.
you at least have the
At least
knowledge
have
base
the
on how to
knowledge.
do it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I think that was, I feel like there was maybe something else you said in there. Oh, just and the impact it can make on your family, like
Yeah.
your kids, and like
Yeah.
not only are you improving your health, but you ultimately will likely improve your child's health too, or children's
Oh,
health,
yeah.
because they're going to watch you, they're going to do the things that you do. And
Yeah. They do.
um I think we all, like, whoever is a parent, or even, somebody who's not a parent yet but is going to be a parent,
Right.
you either do or will just want your child to obviously grow up, thrive, be
Yes.
healthy and happy. And
Mhm.
by you learning how to do it and passing it on to them, it's taking care of that. So
Yeah.
um, I love that you brought up all those points.
Definitely like to work out. Yeah.
Your
My
who
daughter
does?
always
Your daughter?
both my kids, yeah.
Both?
My son's like, I'm gonna walk on the treadmill while you work out. And then my daughter comes and she gets like the little 5 pound weights and she's like, I'm like, okay, just be careful. Like yeah, they both like to like be out there and like, so they're like, they're watching it, they're gonna learn that and like it'll give them those good, habits to kind of take with them as they grow.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And it's awesome that they are able to do it in a way where like they're doing it with you. It's like a bonding experience. They're having fun
Yeah.
doing it. Where a lot of people, their first experiences with exercise are something negative, where they're doing it like, I've talked with a lot of people who, and this is probably maybe a little more common in women, but it can happen in men too.
Yeah.
But like their first experience with exercise is in like middle school, where they wanted to
Yeah.
lose weight and they were forcing
Yeah.
themselves to exercise, trying to restrict calories and doing it in like a negative way because they hated their body. Where now, like, your kids are getting their first exposure to exercise in a positive way, of something that's fun,
Making it
something I
fun.
get to do
Yeah.
with mom, and all this
Yeah.
stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So I feel like we've kind of covered all like the questions and everything and covered a lot.
Yeah.
Is there anything that like you feel like you want to add just before we kind of like officially wrap up? Any like last second thoughts, anything that like, I don't know, that
Yeah.
just popping up, that any advice for somebody who's um, listening?
I think just kind of, I mean, I said it, kind of throughout, but just like taking the leap of like, okay, I'm going to do this is like really scary. And, you know, on a lot of different levels, commitment, financially, a lot of different avenues there. But once you do it, you kind of, I don't know, I've never felt like I have to do this. Like, I feel like I want to do this. So it's easier to sustain. And it taught me a lot of how to like actually, be able to live and not feel, I can still do this and not feel totally neglected from like any kind of a party or outing or, holiday, whatever, family get together. Like, you just kind of like do what you can with what you have, and that you're going to be better than you were before not doing any of that. So it's just kind of helped my mentality of that, going forward, of just like do what you can do. So like if I can't get the whole workout in, like at least get something in, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's helped you find that middle ground, that you
A little
lack
less,
sometimes, but
all or nothing, a little less, I will admit.
uh-huh.
Sometimes I still have my moments, but yeah, it has helped because it literally, before I'd be like, oh well, I can't work out today. Why even work out this week? But
Yeah.
at least I'm like, okay, now I can do 2 workouts this week, So at least I'm doing more of what I was not doing before.
Yeah. And learning to do it because you want to do it and not because you need to, which is,
Because you feel good.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for hopping on, Kayla. It was a lot of fun. Remember, it's Kayla, not Kyla. But it's been awesome working with you over the past 5 months, and excited for the upcoming month. And like I said before, like everything you've been through in your progress and your mentality around it, super inspiring. And I know people listening, they're going to be inspired by this too. So um, yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and maybe, hopefully, maybe in the future, like 6 months from now or so, you'll be
Yeah.
even further closer to your goal, and maybe we'll have you on again. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
Hopefully.
uh, cool. Well, yeah, we'll kind of wrap it up here. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one then.